Okay, so welcome back to episode 7 of the Lockdown podcast. Last week on episode 6, we had Bangor Bulls were represented by their club chairman, Michael O'Brien. So thanks, Michael, for coming on. It was really, really interesting stuff. But that's now done and dusted. The kind of club focus, as we said, is been and gone, and some really, really interesting stories. But we're moving on, as we always do. So, as I said, episode 7, our spotlight is now going to shine on the kind of female development within the sport of wheelchair basketball within Northern Ireland. And today we're joined by Samantha McColgan. Cheers for joining us, Samantha. And our usual suspects, we have Donnie Cooper and James McSorley. Lads, pleasure as always to have you. It's good to have you back again. My favourite day of the week at the minute, doing the podcast. So just to give you a wee bit of a background on Samantha, she's a player and a committee member for the Northwest Wolves. We obviously had her chairman, Trevor, on in later episodes in the club focus. And I suppose what we're going to do at the minute is, Sam, we talked about this off camera. We're going to go with a weekly roundup. So the weekly roundup is just things that are going on in your life right now, and in amongst all this kind of craziness that we've been going through for the last load of weeks. So James, do you want to give us a heads up on what's been going on with you, man?
Yeah, the big thing between last week and this week for me has been Spain has moved, well, half of Spain, the half I'm in, has been moved on to the next phase of coming out of lockdown. So we went from phase 0 to phase 1 for some reason. But so basically the main difference for us now is up to 10 friends are allowed to meet up while still 2 meters apart, which is cool. So there's 3 of us in this apartment. We've got a couple of different teammates and fiancés, wives and stuff that we've all been able to meet up and go for a walk and still sort of stay apart. And there's more cafes and like restaurants and stuff open, and which is really cool to see. And I think one of the main things that sort of attracts me to Spanish culture is that thing that everyone loves, meeting up and sort of celebrating over a bit of food, a bit of drink or whatever, and being able to see a little tiny bit of that get going again has been really, really nice. And it's kind of filled me with a bit of hope. And it also means I can just get out and about a wee bit more. And there's a few more wee things opening up, like there's bakeries and stuff. If you want to, there's more little things that you can sort of walk past and go, oh, that's open now, happy days, and stick your head in and grab a coffee or whatever. So yeah, we're getting a little bit closer to what was normal life. Obviously it's not going to be the same for a very long time, but the sort of little tiny bits and pieces that I've been missing are coming back gradually, and that's been really exciting to sort of fill the gaps in between the usual training and trying to keep my body in shape and try and keep my mind in shape. And yeah, that's been the most exciting thing for me in the last week.
So getting out, getting a bit more sun around you and just seeing a bit more people and around your community is always nice, isn't it? And hopefully we'll go in the right direction as well from an NI perspective. So cheers, James. Donnie, over to you, big man. The Cooper household.
All good. Yeah, no, all good. I suppose first point, is really good feedback again. Some really nice comments on the podcast on the last couple of episodes, and people getting to know the club, which is nice. So that's really nice. Obviously, I know Phil will say later, but do like it, share it, comment, all that kind of stuff. I suppose the other kind of thing was a scenario which has now become known as Tomato Gate in the Cooper household. So, as most people have done during lockdown, bit of DIY, painting walls, making the house look lovely. So we've got some nice white walls in our house.
Oh no.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do always eat in the dining room at the table, but one day last week we decided 5-month-old daughter, she's 5 months today actually, we're going to go in the dining room, sit with her, in the living room, sit with her and have our lunch. Mrs. C stabs into a cherry tomato and the thing goes, and Elsie's there covered, I'm there covered, and the white wall is just destroyed, one for a better word. So that now is a topic that I can't actually talk about with Mrs. C or with anyone associated with Mrs. C, but I've actually just mentioned it on my podcast. So we'll see how that goes down when it's released next week. But yeah, so that is probably I suppose it's highlight, low light of this week. So yeah, Tomato Gate keep it on your mind when you're eating cherry tomatoes.
Oh dear, you've just signed your death warrant there, Danny. Whenever your wife listens to this, so we won't have Danny back on the podcast again. So
We've got a week, thank God.
cheers, buddy. Cheers, Sam. What about yourself? How have you been getting on?
Quiet. To be honest, we still aren't allowed out or allowed to go anywhere. And then because I'm across the border, I haven't seen family or friends because they're in the north and I'm in the south. But I'm doing homeschooling, and we thought we were getting on great at this. So I was delighted with life. We were getting on with life and getting on with homing and schooling. And then I found a text message on Alex's phone telling his friend that he needed a substitute teacher. Because
Very good. That's brilliant.
apparently it wasn't going as well as what I thought.
Brilliant.
The moral of the story is I'm never going to be a teacher. Apparently.
Plus,
That's you and me both. You and me both. Definitely, Sam. 100%. Homeschooling's a funny one, isn't it? It's a real funny one. And
It is. It's hard. It's tight.
it's difficult, but I've actually enjoyed watching Ben trying to figure things out and me trying to like understand where he's coming from and stuff. So I've kind of enjoyed it, but he'd definitely be with Alex as well. He'd be like, he prefers mum to do it. Yeah, he prefers mum to do it compared to me. So Gemma's been all over that, as she is with most things. But I actually had to push her out of the road. So I got my opportunity this week, folks, with getting my coaching fix in, James.
Yeah.
So homeschool message comes through from the school. We're doing PE this week.
Ah, brilliant.
Get in, son. I'm planning. I've got my iPad out. I'm like, I'm going to be all over this. So we went through chest passing, ball handling, different things. And the wee man was just destroyed at the end of it. And I was thinking, I've still got it. I've still got it.
I love how that's the goal. Like, that's the point that you reach to figure out you've had a success when he's like knackered and he's like, no, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh dear. I know he stuck with it, to be fair to him. He stuck with it. I might have went a bit far, as I tend to do, but he stuck with it. So that was really good. But the funny thing was, it was supposed to be Gemma's day. No.
Don't worry, yeah, I've got this.
I've got that. Just hold my beer. So yeah, no, that was the stuff that was going on in the Robinson household. So Ben wasn't impressed. But cheers, folks, for letting us know what you've been getting up to over this kind of uncertain times. But it is good to reflect and have a bit of fun with our families as well, isn't it? So I suppose me and Danny were talking before we kind of got on, and James as well. We kind of felt that we wanted to get James's over kind of arching look on. Obviously, we had the club focus over the last 5 kind of episodes. So James, give us your thoughts on what you kind of heard from different clubs and different perspectives, and were you excited about anything you heard, or what was your take on it?
I'm always excited to talk about basketball. You know me. I think the main thing that I picked up, we've had 6 weeks. We've spoken to people who've been playing for 7 years. We've spoken to people who've been representing a club that's only started months ago, never mind years. We've gone from nights starting before I was born to a club starting last year. And the overarching thing, the theme the whole way through it, I've kind of picked up is that what makes a club great is the people involved. Like, you talk about nights, you're talking about the people who set the club up and the people who've run it all the way through. You go to Northwest Wolves, you go to Bangor Bulls, any of the clubs that we've just spoken to over the last couple of weeks, it's nothing without the good people putting the effort into taking the club forward, organizing it, making sure everything's set up for a training on a Wednesday night or whatever, or making sure making sure everything's working from top to bottom. There's a lot of stuff that goes on above the level of people just turning up to training that I've never been a part of. I was the guy who just showed up and went, this is great. Everyone else has done all the hard stuff. But that's my one big takeaway. It's absolutely class to see that there's 6 healthy clubs that are all going in the right direction because of a combination of Danny's guidance and the people within the clubs all working hard to kind of take things forward. It's great to see. Like, I have no doubt that wheelchair basketball in Northern Ireland is going in the right direction in all different corners of the country now. And it's absolutely brilliant to see from a wee boy who's gone from Belfast playing for all these years, and obviously I've gone a bit further afield now, but it's great to see that everything's still going brilliantly back home.
Yeah, it really has been. It really has been really good and exciting to sort of get different people's perspectives on what goes on within their club environment and what they're excited about as well. Danny, have you anything to add to that?
No. I think, well, the only thing I would say is massive thank you to people who've come on from the clubs and talk about the clubs. James, you've hit the nail on the head. It's all about the people. I think we've spoken about that in the previous podcast as well. People involved, and quite clearly, we're very, very lucky as a sport in Northern Ireland to have some fantastic people who want to grow it in a regional sense in their own club in their own area, but also on a nationwide scale as well. And it's exciting. The word I use all the time, projects, whether it's the wider project of Northern Ireland or whether it's individual clubs or projects. It's really exciting. And yeah, just you know me, I'm saying James, I love it, absolutely love it. So
yeah,
brilliant.
And I suppose talking about projects and people, I suppose it moves us on nicely to what we're here to talk about. Obviously, we've got Sam McColgan on from the Wolves, and a very, very proactive kind of like female within the sport of wheelchair basketball in Northern Ireland. And we thought that, if there was no better person to get on and kind of have a chat to about her journey. But obviously within Danny and myself will be very, very aware, and Sam as well, about the growth and the development within the female side of the game and the sport on a wider sort of note within Northern Ireland. So we've had a massive increase of female players playing the sport, which is brilliant to see within a kind of mixed gender sport. Coaching staff as well we've seen a massive explosion with female coaches coming through, female officials from a referee standpoint, table officials, the analysts, the performance analysts that kind of take to do with our Northern Ireland League days, and then club committee members, and then volunteers. So right throughout the whole kind of like system within Northern Ireland, that all of the various clubs involved, we've had a massive growth and kind of development within kind of female participation. So that's why we'll have Sam on, obviously. So Sam, welcome. We'll start with a really, really basic question. How did you get involved with wheelchair basketball? How did this all come about?
Well, I'm going to have to take us back a wee bit first before I could talk about that. In 2014, my life was just normal. I was a runner. I had a child. I ran about with my friends. I did everything a normal life would do. And I run a marathon on the Sunday, and by the Friday I was in a wheelchair. My life changed drastically, like huge, within a matter of 5 days. And I didn't ever expect it to happen like that, or I didn't plan for it, so I didn't know what to do. So I stayed in the hospital then for 5.5 months. And when I came out, a good 2 years, I didn't know what to do or where to go, or what direction I wanted my life to go in. But I did contact a lot of PTs to see if I could even get into a gym to try and get back into a bit of fitness. And everybody more or less told me that they couldn't train me. So eventually I came across this one fella, Vincent Sweeney, and he told me I had to come in. I kind of left out a lot of my disability at the time. And he told me to come in. So when I went in, I was in an electric wheelchair, and only my right hand worked. Well, my right fingers, nothing else. And he trained me for 3 minutes and told me to go home, that I couldn't do nothing. So I went home and I went back the next day, and they sent me home again, and I went back in again, and this went on for a while until eventually he just said that it was Tran and he was going to train me. And there I met Paula Campbell, who has been my saviour throughout the whole thing. She asked me about the wheelchair basketball then, and I wasn't sure about it at the start because it just wasn't what I expected it to be. I had an image in my head that was completely different, and she kept badgering me about it. And to be honest, I had never left the house by myself, so I didn't know if I could go into a sport with people and know what to do. I'd always had somebody with me, more or less caring for me and looking after me. So it was the fact that I was going to leave the house by myself and go to a training session with people that I didn't know and didn't know what to expect, so I didn't know how to do it. So I kept telling her no, and she kept badgering me, and eventually to shut her up, I said aye this day. So I went over and I cried the whole way in the car because it was my first time in the car by myself. It was my first time ever anywhere. I cried the whole way there. And I got there and I was like, yeah, some woman now, look at me. And I went in and it was just madness. I didn't look at anybody, I didn't know what to do because it was just all new to me. And when I went in, Danny was there and they put me in the wheelchair and I coped out of it. Nobody told me like that chairs move, like when you move them, and it was mad. I flopped clean out of it and I was like, actually this is good, because nobody even tried to help me. They were just like, you're all right, get back up. And I was like, they're not fussing, they're not going to baby me, more or less. And I was like, this is for me. And then when I got on and actually moved and realised how the chair moved, it was like, yeah, here we go, this is it. So that was more or less how it started. And from then I was just hooked.
And it sounds like, obviously me and Danny know you, and James has kind of met you from a more distant sort of view from a Sheffield perspective, but we know what your nature's like, and that kind of never give up or never die nature must have shown kind of through to the point where you were kind of, the PT was just right. I got to get to help this girl and kind of build the strength up and one thing or another. But I know that your family has had a massive part to play as well in that, in regards to, you know, your rehab process and the build up to actually getting into, before you actually consider getting back to sport, which is massive as well. What was it kind of spurred you on? Like what part or what bit of clarity came into your head that you were like, right, okay, I'm gonna go and try this? You talked about maybe not wanting to go and you held it Paula off for a while. What made what was that next step?
Well, the thing that actually changed it that weekend was I have a wee boy and he was just 4 at the time that I went in the wheelchair. Everybody else kind of mollycoddled me and didn't know really what way to behave around me. They were trying to protect me, I suppose. He never seen me any different. I was still mommy. And this day he came on to me and I was like, at this time I was in bed all time. I had to just get up, and I used a tracking hoist to get in and out of bed. So when carers came in, or personal assistants came in to help me, they had to get me up and put me to bed, and I couldn't do nothing by myself. So he came in this day and he wanted to learn how to ride a bike, a 2-wheeler. And I was like, this is not for me. Maybe wait, there's somebody else that's here. And he was like, no, mommy, you can do it. And I was like, no, Alex, I can't. We'll wait till somebody else comes later. And he's talking to me in the hoist, you know, the sling that hung on the back of my door. And he's over pulling the chair over, and he's getting up on top of the chair, getting the hoist down, the sling down. And I'm like, Alex, what are you doing? We're going out to learn how to ride a 2-wheeler. And I'm lying in bed thinking, I can't even work that electric wheelchair. I don't know how he thinks I'm going to learn him to ride a 2-wheeler. So I was telling him no, and while I was telling him no, he's putting the sling on me. And I'm like, Samantha, he's 4. You're a grown woman. Here, just take him out and try it. And if it doesn't work, at least he knows you tried. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't see that you're all of a sudden you're mommy that's in the wheelchair and that you can't do these things. So just go out. And I went out with him, and where I live, it's like on a main road, but there's no houses around me. So I went out and had to like put the blankets and stuff. He got me out and in the wheelchair. I was like, if he can learn how to put me in a sling by himself without nobody ever giving him guidance, he didn't drop me. Right, I have to have a bit more faith in myself now that I can do the same back, and hope to God that I didn't kill him. So we went out. I was out the back street and I got him on the 2-wheeler. And like at this time, all really would work was this hand, this one arm, and it would like just go back and forward. So I got him out and I was like, right, how am I going to hold the chair, push my chair and hold his bike? So I got him right over beside me and I was like, right, Alex, when I push you, when I move my chair, you have to pedal. Right. So we goes out anyway, and we done it the first time, and I had it at speed 1. This chair goes up in speed, so speed 1 because I was feared. So done it anyway, and like it pedaled and fell off, and he was like, we didn't even move. And I was like, well, I'm trying here, do you know? So right, come back again, we'll try again. So I put it up to speed 2, and same thing, and he was like, no, just put that, comes over, hits it up to speed 5, and I'm like, we're both going through the wall. That's it. There's nothing else for it here. We're both going through the wall. So he was like, sure, we'll just try it. And the next thing, we took off, and I let him go. And the next thing, my feet went round and round, and he was pedaling, and I had learned them, and I was like, yeah. I'm going to wheelchair basketball this week. If I can learn Hammonds on its own, I can go on a yard by myself. So that was that. That was the saving stone, I suppose. It showed me that although I seen myself different, he didn't, and I needed to stop seeing the things that I couldn't do and actually have more of his mindset and try it. Doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that's
Absolutely.
how it came about.
That's unbelievable story. Like in terms of your son and the inspiration he kind of provided to you in regards to just getting at things and getting back to, you know, being mommy, as you said, you know what I mean, which is class. Unbelievable. But then so you're at club training then. What did that, I know you said you fell out of the chair and stuff like that, but tell me the kind of feeling that you had whenever you first kind of started to catch a ball, move around the court, have a bit of crack with people, because obviously you were a sporting person before that. How did that make you feel?
It was unreal. It was just that I was back being me, but I sat down. It was just, I didn't see any different then. No, I didn't see the chair as an obstacle anymore. It was kind of more my friend, and it was my helper, you know, that way. And then the more that I learned how to do things, the more faith that I had in myself, and the more it actually gave me the confidence to know that I was still me. I was just hiding for a while, and that I was starting to come back. You know, I could do things. I just was going to do everything different. But even just being in that sport environment, like the fellas, I went over and I was the only girl. I actually don't even know if they realise I am a girl, to be honest, because I always just hear, right lads, come on. So I'm not really sure if they've actually caught on to that, but being the only girl, I thought that would be something too that would make me a bit different. But it was never an issue, and they never mollycoddled me. They never were softer with me. If anything, they were probably harder on me. Yeah. And then whenever it started all coming together, it was just the best feeling.
Yeah. And would you say that you know, joining the club had a massive impact on your physical and mental kind of rehabilitation at that point?
I can honestly say if it wasn't for that I wouldn't be me now. I definitely wouldn't, because up until that stage, as I said, I had never even went out in the car by myself. I'd never left the house. And whenever I went over there and realised that I had to go every week, I had to keep pushing myself every week to go. And then I met a lot of people over there that was in manual wheelchairs. I was in a monstrosity of a wheelchair, and whenever, I was in an electric wheelchair for 3.5 years, maybe a bit more. And when I had asked about the manual wheelchair, I was just kept getting shot down, and then eventually got one, and it was a monster. It was like a monster truck. And I went over and these and they're wee Mercedes chairs and stuff, and I'm like, where did I get that? And I get this big thing. So when I started talking to them, it actually opened that up for me too, because I knew that what was out there, and I knew that I could quietly persuade my OT to put me up for it then, instead of the ones that they thought that would be better for me.
Totally.
And it just gave me back the whole independence, because my other chair, I couldn't put it in and out of the car by itself. Yeah. So whenever I got the wee sporting one, then it was like, here we go, I can actually go everywhere now. So it opened up so many different things for me, not just being back as part of a team, but it actually gave me the links to people to know what was out there as well. And that there was just, it was up there with everything that helped my mental health. Up until then, I didn't really know what way to go forward, and I didn't know how to be me, if that makes sense. But whenever I met Hammonds and realised that you can still do everything, it's just different, it kind of gave me, I knew that I could. It was just trying to put it forward to people. They were kind of probably trying to help me and look after me, but it kind of held me back a wee bit. So when I knew that the rest of the fellas was all able to do it and it worked, nobody died, nobody was on sick, I was like, right, well, I'm going to be okay, so yeah, I'll manage.
I think there's a really key point there, if you don't mind me jumping in, which is this credit goes to yourself, obviously, for taking that leap and going on to the club hugely. I think the club as well, credit to them, because first of all, Paula pestering you all the time was good, obviously. Second of all, I think actually the approach, I think about that first night, I remember thinking, I remember you come along, you kind of watch for a bit, and then kind of by yourself, you transferred yourself into a chair and kind of got a feel for it. I think that was totally the right way to go. Because I mean, you could go at your own pace and see what it was about and see what the kind of environment was. I get a feel for it actually being in the hall. And, you know, we've spoken about this before. I think we spoke about it a couple of episodes ago about that feeling when someone comes to a door of a new club or a new setting. It is tough. It is hard to make yourself want to be in there. So I think that it's a nice. I would say again, same as I've said before. I've been thinking quite positively on that. But yeah, that was a good night when you joined, certainly.
Yeah. James, I suppose I had a kind of question. Obviously, you had two different sides. Obviously, with Sam, she acquired a disability, and you were born with your disability. But do any of those, like Sam's story, does any of that kind of resonate with you in regards to how she kind of found herself or was kind of reborn in a sense, if you know what I mean, whenever she went along to the club? Does any of that resonate with you?
Absolutely, 100%. I was just waiting for the right time to sort of jump in. Like the first two stories you told there about showing up to the club and no one treating you any differently. And then, of course, like your kid not knowing, not even thinking and treat you any differently. That they're both two brilliant examples of how removing that barrier of like the perception of people with disabilities just completely throws out any sort of doubt you would have in yourself. Like if there was no one in that room when you turned up to training that even thought for a second about treating you any differently because of your disability, so you probably didn't think of yourself any differently in that however long it was, that hour and a half, I don't know. Same thing with the bikes. Like there was no one there who even put it out into the air any possibility that you would have thought about yourself any differently, or that there was stuff that you couldn't have done or couldn't have figured out a way around because you just. I think that really shows the importance of like just removing that sort of that barrier from that attitude. Like there's ways around things, there's ways to figure things out. And I think talking about being around people with disabilities through wheelchair basketball in terms of finding myself and figuring myself out. Obviously, I was born with the disability I have. It's a little bit different. I didn't acquire one, but even like I've grown up from, obviously started when I was 6. I've grown up being surrounded by these people. So there was a point where I would have been, I don't know, like a teenager with a disability for the first time, and there would have been boys about my age or a couple of years older than me. And there's stuff that this is like as you grow older, there's different things that you go through, different checkpoints in your life, and you need to figure out. And you see there's guys a couple of years ahead of you that have already done it. They've gone to school with a disability, you know, they've gone to a mainstream school and they've been all right. And you chat to them about that, and you get recommendations. And then even like I was like growing up chatting to boys about like growing up and being independent and going to university while being a wheelchair user or whatever, and trying to pick up tips from there. I remember talking to Paul McKillop about when he moved to England to train with GB for a year, been 5 or 6 years before I even thought about it, and the sort of advice that he gave me and the experience that he had from there kind of informed what I did a little bit, along with a couple other different things. So absolutely, like just being around people who have done or are doing what you're doing, who are in a similar position in terms of disability, like it just helps massively. You either get to share experiences or you get to learn from experiences of people who are further ahead than you in terms of how long they've had their disability or how old they are or whatever. Like if it's, as you say, chatting to people about what's the lightest day chair you can get, because I'm about to do my test. Like someone, I remember Con Nagel, who's 18 odd now, he's had his driving test for, I don't know, a year or two now. I remember before he was learning, they were like, his parents were like, how do you get your chair into the car? Like, and I'd have had like Paul McKillop will have taught me how to do that. Like you just, there's a real sense of you can either go through it together with people who are in the same spot, or you can learn from people who are a bit further along than you. So it's absolutely indispensable, because I learned far more from that than I ever would have from, I don't know, speaking to a doctor about it or a physio about it, who obviously have their own part to play in these things. But, you know, talking to other people who've actually got real lived experience of it is completely irreplaceable, I think.
Yeah, 100%. It sounds, again, that's kind of coming back to that theme of good people, you know, a sense of community, a sense of feeling and being involved in something. But I had a quick another question kind of leading on from that. Obviously, from a female's perspective? You kind of touched upon it, that you were going in and you were one of the only females in the group. How did that make you feel within kind of like joining a mixed gender sport, whenever you've not necessarily first got in to the session, but whenever you kind of started to get comfortable in there and you were part of the club and you felt like part of the community? How did you feel?
As I said, grand, I don't really see that the fellas treat me any different to them. I don't, as I said, I don't even think they've realised that I am a girl. They just treat me like one of them. So it has never been like a barrier or anything that's been different towards us. So even for me now, trying to bring other women in, when I'm talking to Hammonds, I don't even say like it's mostly men, because I don't even feel like that's something that I need to tell them. Because when you're there, it doesn't matter whether they're male or female; they just treat you all the same. So it's never been an issue for me. I've just had good people, I suppose, around me.
Yeah, absolutely, and a real proactive club as well.
Yeah.
And I suppose the other advantage you have at your club is we did mention whenever Trevor was on, one of your coaches is a female in Diane Fernie as well, and she's been about the game for a while and a very proactive person. Did that help at all? Was that a kind of welcoming feature? Did Diane speak to you prior to or while you were at the sessions?
I spoke to Diane the first night, and I do think that they helped, and I also think that Diane, and although we have no other female players, the male players as parents usually come along. So there's always a female there as well. If you need that bit of advice or encouragement or anything, like there's Diane and there's a few other women there. So you don't really feel like you're missing out on that. There's a lot of them there.
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose the other sort of thing from Danny's point of view, it must be great from a club development point of view to hear that there's such an inclusive environment, regardless of whether it's gender or from a mixed bunch of people with disabilities. There's a massive community feel to that club.
No, definitely, absolutely. I think the nature of what our sport is lends itself to that straight off the bat, the inclusion side of it. I think the other thing as well, just kind of as a side point, I guess, is that I think it's the same at all the clubs, and I won't just say that into the Northern Ireland. I'm going to say that probably across the world in terms of our sport, because, and James, I'm sure you can allude to this a bit more, but we're very unique in the sense that it's a mixed sport. It's a mixed team sport. That's usually different. You look at your footballers, your rugby's of the world, they're separate. But James, I suppose you played with males, females in the mixed sport all your life, and obviously over in Spain. Is that the case in Spain as well in your current team? Yeah.
Yes, that is the case. I've been very fortunate. Obviously, my sister has grown up playing wheelchair basketball at the same time as me. Like, I had the opportunity to play a mixed gender disability sport on the same team as my sister, and like there's two barriers that I would have thought would have gotten in the way for your average disabled kid, which just weren't an issue. And that was absolutely, like, that was obviously brilliant growing up. And as I've got into the sort of higher levels of the sport, I've been very, very fortunate to have played with a lot of great players, including some great players from the women's side of the game. Last season in Sheffield, for example, I played with Amy Conroy, the GB women's 4-point player, world championship silver medalist, European silver medalist. And this year I am living and playing with Rose Hollerman, Team USA 3.5, who's a Paralympic gold medalist, Parapans medalist. Like, the CVs of those two women for a start, just absolutely, like, I could go on for days. But I don't know if anyone's had a better run of like 2 years in a row playing with two more successful female wheelchair basketball players. I'm sure there's a couple of people that, if they're watching, could correct me on that, but I feel very fortunate to have sort of had great teammates, and obviously being able to play with female athletes has just doubled the pool of great people and great players that I can play with and learn from and have sort of friendships with. And yeah, that's one of the really, really great parts of wheelchair basketball. It's great. And I think that gives people another chance to sort of see women playing wheelchair basketball at the highest levels. Like, I'm sure it can only be inspiring for women playing wheelchair basketball at different levels to see female players playing at the absolute highest level. Like, Champions Cup final last year, their Jitske Visser, a one-pointer from the Dutch national team, starts for Thuringian Bulls, and they're the best team in Europe as of Eurocup last year. So to have a female player starting on the best club team in Europe, like you can't get any higher level than that, can you?
Yeah,
So
no,
It's
absolutely. I think it's sorry, Phil. I just think it's such a massive. There's so many pluses to Wales basketball, and that's definitely one of them. That aspect of the mixed team sport, you know, it's brilliant. But I think it's putting another barrier in terms of people who aren't in the club seeing that actually it is a positive, and it's just the norm in the sport. It's not really thought about. I think Sam's kind of alluded to it. It's just the norm. It is normal. It is the thing, you know. So no, that's the thing that interests me, I think.
yeah, it's something that's really kind of beautifully unique to the sport, if you know what I mean. That at junior level especially, you're going to get a lot of types of disabilities, different gender types, all competing, all working together, and trying to achieve something, you know, from a competitive standpoint. And I suppose one thing a question I did want to ask you was the kind of, obviously the perennials come on board this season and had the NI League. We had it running this season. How did that have an impact on kind of you and your team?
Well, it just opened it up massively for us then, because now we have something to play for. Whereas at the start, when we were just playing, we were training every week, and nobody was really listening, to be honest. Whereas now that Perennials is on board and there's actually a league, you can know now that as soon as Paul blows that whistle or Dan blows that whistle, they listen. They sit up and they listen on them chairs. So I think it's just giving them that they know there's structure, they know there's something moving forward from it. So it's opened it up and it's given them like something to play for.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
You're obviously like a strong-minded female within your club, obviously from a committee standpoint, from a playing standpoint, and I think whenever I originally sent you a message, you just said, I'll just get stuff done. Honestly, and that's probably a really, really good way to kind of sum you up as a person within that group. But we talked about a lot of different people within that. At the beginning of the podcast, we kind of mentioned there had been an explosion of female players within the game, female coaches within the game, officials, table officials, analysts, you know, from different clubs and committee members and volunteers. Is that something that really stood out to you whenever you went along to the league and you seen maybe, you know, that kind of like representation of females across the sport? Is that something that kind of made you feel proud, or was something you were going, this is really building here?
It is because it just makes you feel like it. I find for me, females kind of get to a certain age and they find that they're either going to go and play sport or they're not, and they're more interested in what way they look or what way people's going to perceive them. So they kind of pull back. So I think now whenever you see so many people coming into it, it's good because they're feeling confident too and they're feeling comfortable to be in that sport, and that they're not feeling that. For me, it makes me think that they don't feel uncomfortable. People are so welcoming, and that means that the sport's going the right way. They make somebody feel like it doesn't matter if you're a female or a male, you can come into that sport and be part of a team. So for me, it's a good thing. I can only see the positives in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Me and Danny talked about this at length. And Danny, I hope you don't mind me sort of like saying that you made a really, really good point there, Sam, in regards to kind of age and stage and people dropping into the sport, or sports in general, and that's across all both genders. And you're kind of looking at that and you're sort of saying the one thing that really, really struck me was the different levels of classification in ages from a female perspective that we're now starting to see coming into wheelchair basketball, and there's more ladies joining the sport and more females joining the sport from different age categories and brackets and things like that. And I suppose that's something that's had the biggest impact on me is that, you know, you've got somebody like yourself, full-time wheelchair user, whereas you can have somebody from the Lakers, for example, with a minimal disability, or somebody with an amputation. So we're starting to see more and more people, but I think that's something that as a sport we can do better at in terms of getting the awareness out there that isn't just for people that are full-time wheelchair users. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely.
Danny, have you anything to add? Sorry, I cut across you there, buddy.
No. I think, I think a question I'm kind of interested in the same time kind of area is you've said about in terms of people maybe coming into the sport maybe late in life or actually early in life, kids, and we can see it really active and actually in the junior sections of the clubs that do have a junior section, which is obviously yourselves at the Wolves and the Knights. There are a couple of younger females getting involved, which is great. There's one individual I'm thinking of now at your club who is an absolute rocket, and she's about 5 or 6 years old. That's brilliant. So that's really exciting. But I suppose my question to you would be, if there is somebody out there who's listening and maybe is injured from their own sport, maybe they played hockey or cricket all their life and they're injured, they're not playing anymore, what would you say to that individual to get them into the sport, male or female? What would your message be?
The only thing that I can say is come and try it, because see what you have in your head, it is completely different. You have this image in your head and this, you think what it's going to be like, and when you go there, it's completely different. I've heard that from a lot of people that when they've been first approached it, that they don't think they're going to be interested in it. It's not going to be for them. But when you go, it's completely different to what you think it's going to be. For me, especially, I did not think it was going to be anything like it is.
Absolutely. No, I think it's really interesting because I think, like, the way I kind of look at it is, maybe you've had to stop your own sport or your own activity, whether it's running or whatever, but this can almost extend that playing career, if you like. But obviously, the other side of that is it's not just about playing. There's loads of things in there. We've spoken about coaching, officiating. There's loads of different things as well to get involved in. That was quite an interesting kind of side to it, Phil. And I think that's one thing we probably want to see more is people exploring a bit and going, I'm willing to give this a go, although actually I don't feel like it's necessarily the right fit. I'll see. And actually, I think a lot more people will come out of going, it's actually a lot better fit than I thought. Yeah, totally.
No, 100%. And the other sort of question that I kind of had for you, Sam, was you obviously rapidly developed, within the sport, because you've ended up within our kind of like under, our development group within the Northern Ireland pathway, prior to me actually starting a women's development kind of program as well. How did that feel coming up against people like, so you came up with 2 other male teammates up into that environment? How did that feel stepping up into like a pathway almost? And then obviously you went on to go to a low pointers camp within Great Britain. Tell me a wee bit about that. How that felt.
It was very surreal, to be honest with you, because again, at the start I thought because I was the girl, I was kind of going to be sidelined, if that makes sense, and because I was one of the older players at it. So I was like, right, this is brilliant and I love this. And then whenever I was invited up to the NI, it was like, whoa, this actually can go places too. It's not just in the waterside, it can actually go further afield. So it was brilliant. It was just knowing that different people had different opportunities and that it didn't have to just stop there. If you wanted to progress, it can progress. So it's up to you then. So it was fantastic just to see the difference, and even the difference in the talent, I suppose, from what we were used to at the Wolves, and we went to NI and Colin Eagle flew past and we were like, what was that? We didn't have a clue even, like, how does even a chair move that fast? So it was fantastic to see how the stages that can happen and how far it can go. It was very good.
Yeah, I remember your first night of training and the look that you give me, because I'm obviously encouraging to everybody that comes into the program, and I think Dawn went past you a couple of times with the ball in hand and you were just like, nah.
I was like, why am I here? Am I like going to be ball woman or what? Am I just going to throw the balls up? Is that what my job is?
No, not at all.
Yeah, then I suppose whenever you get into that sort of system, you understand that the coaching philosophy and the philosophy from within the group, I can nearly speak, is all about that, is developing the person and developing the skill set within the person, and not so much worrying about the team development sort of side of things. We're trying to encourage people to explore what they can and cannot do and explore their development, rather than just thinking about we're going to beat this team next week or this team. So it adds a different flavour to maybe the club environment that you were used to going along to. Would that be fair to say, James?
Pardon?
From an MI perspective, would that be fair to say that we're kind of athlete focused, or we're person centered in that sense of developing the person that's in front of us rather than from a team collective all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where the Monday nights come in instead of, I don't remember what night you guys train for club, but the NI stuff on a Monday versus the league stuff on a Saturday, you get two different looks at developing in terms of your sort of skill set as a basketball player. Obviously, you go to your club and you're looking at, right, I want to win this game on Saturday, and that's been brilliant. We've spoken about it on the different podcasts we've done with different teams. Like, having the league there is brilliant in terms of motivation to try and get better for a specific goal on Saturday, whereas you can show up on a Monday and kind of just concentrate on the process of the whole thing, which I think is the most important thing as a developmental level of basketball player, and as a setup in general. If you're trying to get people better, you can't be goal oriented at the start. It's all about doing things right. And I've been very lucky to be coached by Phil and to show up at sessions Phil's been coaching, and that seems to be the focus. And it's absolutely, it's the right way to do things. I'm sure of it. Even going forward to the GB stuff, like you've been over yourself, like there's game stuff, but a lot of it is okay. We've got game stuff and we're keeping score and whatever, but the amount of times that the coaches over there blow a whistle and stop everything because you're just not doing it right, or you're not putting the ball in your left hand when you're meant to, or you're not, keeping the correct. It's all sort of process focused. It's like that's where the Monday night comes in. I think it's absolutely fundamental for people trying to get to the sort of higher levels, to not just think about winning, think about doing things right.
I think there's a question from me there. Actually, I'm going to put one on you, Phil, because you've got away with 6 weeks without having a question asked to you, I don't think. And I think that, just to bounce off back of what James just said there, I think that the step up kind of aspect of it is how it should be. There should be if Monday night feels the same as your club training, which is Thursday nights for you guys, then obviously that's not quite how it should be. I think there should be a kind of a step up, but that obviously quite naturally within that the first 2 or 3 sessions will be a little bit, convoying by and what's going on. But that's, we all know, we all kind of think this kind of mentality. Sometimes the best things happen outside that little comfort zone. And it's nice just to expand that every now and then. But my question to you, Phil, is obviously on Mondays. So you've run your stuff on Monday, and now we've kind of shifted it pre-lockdown. So it was one Monday of the month became a purely female development side. Sam, you're obviously involved in that. So a question I want to kind of fire to both of you. What's that been like for you? I know it's been for me, and you can put it on my face. I love it, and I know Phil, you're the same. But first of all, Phil, what do you think to that kind of group, and what's that feel been like to start with? And then Sam, I'll kind of ask the same question to you after.
It's as you said, Danny. It's hugely exciting, and it's something that's been a long time coming. As we've discussed, there's been a lot of female kind of development within the sport. Thanks to your hard work and Sam's hard work and people within the club, developing their players and bringing new people through. So it's been massively exciting to get everybody on the floor. And then the other person I want to thank for helping that along the journey would be Elaine, who's our performance line manager, Elaine Reid. And then there's another lady called Jo Hopkins. I think Joe or Sam will remember Joe, who was brilliant in terms of bringing the ladies together and actually figuring out what it is the females within our sport want to see. I think that was massively important to do that. We had a consultation day. James, your sister Emer, was involved in that as well. And that was huge for us because it kind of laid the foundations for a group moving forward. And it's been brilliant to have the ladies on the floor, and everybody's so proactive about wanting to improve, wanting to get better, and to be part of something. I think that's a big part. That community starting to grow from a female standpoint. So yeah, I'm over the moon, and I'm really, really lucky to be able to help the girls in that sense.
So Sam, what about from the inside? The inside looking out, I guess. What's that been like for you?
The same. It's so exciting to see it. Yeah, it really is, and it's good to see just so many people so interested. And it's good for me to see like the flip side, because on ours, as I'm like a dog with a bone. When I know something, I tell the boys, and they're just told when to turn up, when to do it, and they do it. The girls, it's more like the flip side of it. Then they're all involved, and everybody's putting on their 2p worth. And it's good to have that as well. It's good to have that bit of balance to see what way, the difference in it and how they're enjoying it, because they're very vocal on how they're getting on and what their thoughts and feelings is on it. So it's good.
It's really exciting. I mean, I think it's probably one of our biggest frustrations about lockdown. Not only obviously club stops and stuff like that, but obviously the women's stuff.
Yeah.
When we were just getting going, really. So that's probably a frustration we've had, but obviously it's for the right reasons and all the stuff that we've discussed. But the other thing I think that really interests me was the fact you come together on the first night, and I think it was 14, 15 players there, Phil, maybe, and all wearing different club kit and all coming together, and it was just brilliant. That first night was just brilliant. So it's something that I'm looking forward to getting back to whenever we can in the future and seeing it grow and develop. And I know you guys have got a Zoom chat coming a few days all together again, so that'll be amazing. That'll be really good.
Yeah. I suppose, Sam, from my point of view, from obviously I'm helping to kind of structure that group to a certain extent and just bring some form of like I don't know, structure to the madness that goes on. We're getting those players together, you know, that are all brand new, which is loads and loads and loads of fun and lots of hard work. But what would you like to see? Where would you like to see the kind of female side of the game? We've obviously talked about the mixed side of it and being part of your club, but from an NI perspective and from a like a female perspective, obviously you've talked about going across the GB, which you did, and you were part of the kind of females at a low pointer camp there. How do you see the development going, or what would you like to see from an NI perspective for a purely women's team? What would you like to see there?
Well, I would hope that it's going to go the same way as the mixed team. That is my hope and aim, that it goes as high as what it can there as well, because it has potential and there's a lot of people there that's willing to work for it. So I don't see why it shouldn't or wouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is going in that direction because you've got lots of people within that group that are very similar to yourself, that don't mind sharing their opinions, know exactly what they're looking for, and are willing to put a lot of time and effort into that as well, which is something that really struck me, because sometimes when you're working with 15-year-old lads, it's like pulling teeth. But it's also just a different type of challenge. But from Danny's point of view, where do you think it's going to go? Where can you see it going?
Dangerous question to ask me, because there's no ceiling to anything if you ask me, particularly for the coffee. No, I think, listen, it'll grow, and it'll be organic, like most of the things have been. But I think the opportunities for it are huge. I mean, the review session that you spoke about with Joe at the start was kind of mapping out the training sessions on a regular basis. Well, kind of a tick there, because we've got that monthly kind of the Monday thing for all female players. The other thing as well, which is obviously a keynote to that, is obviously kind of the fact that there's players actually not in clubs as well involved in that. So players have come along kind of the other way around, whereas generally you see people come to club and then go, like Sam, your journey. But actually we've got some players who've gone, I am part of the club, I want to come and see what it's like. So that's quite an interesting take on it. But I think as a group and as a whole, it can grow on competitive kind of fixtures is a natural progression, I suppose, more regular training, and then kind of making sure that group's tight-knit and becomes a family within itself. Yes, you'll go off on a Saturday and compete in your little teams against each other, but come back together. And James, I'm sure that's the same for the female players you work with. I know I was chatting to Vanessa Erskine about this, and obviously they compete around Europe or around the world even, and actually when it comes to a national side, come back together and compete as a unit. It's the same for yourself and the men's, you know. Quite interesting, quite nice, I suppose.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really helped push the sort of development of wheelchair basketball within the UK is the setup of a women's league, and it's just more not that Northern Ireland particularly like needs to follow it to the letter, but I think it's just the idea of more opportunities for women's wheelchair basketball to come together in a centralized location and just be, rather than like your 2 or 3 female players on this team and 2 or 3 female players on this team, having like a centralized once a month, as you guys say, whether that increases as time goes on and different things happen, like just having a place and a time that's specifically for women's wheelchair basketball is absolutely the way to go and the way to make it grow. Because I find it interesting. I didn't know that there were players that showed up to that weren't part of clubs. That's a really cool thing in itself, that people are looking at that and going, okay, that would be where I'm comfortable joining in. And that's obviously, that'll give sort of new female wheelchair basketball players a chance to see people like yourself, Samantha, that are already involved and kind of get inspired off the back of that. And that's really cool. So I think just increasing the amount of exposure to women's wheelchair basketball is the way to go.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, we actually, that was it's a fair point you make, James, because when we were looking at the group, we didn't just want it to cap it to people within the club environment. We actually wanted to use that as a recruitment tool as well, and then a retention tool, and then almost a pathway tool where you're able to say, right, okay, you're now comfortable within a group, because we'll have, not everybody's going to be like Sam from that perspective, from a player's perspective or a mindset perspective. So they may come in, and as soon as they get comfortable, they got some basic chair skills, they get to know some of the other females within the sport, then that's a bit more of a comfort, kind of like, right, okay, now you can join one of the clubs that are kind of represented within this room, and it's kind of a bit more organic that way. So we didn't want to kind of cap the group, and we felt like that's how we should do it at the moment. Have you any thoughts on kind of like female player recruitment, Sam? Where can you see that going?
Well, as James did say, it's good that about them coming from not being in clubs, because Kira, the big girl comes up with me now, she our training sessions on a Thursday night, it didn't suit her, so she wasn't able to get to the training session. So now when she's able to go on the Monday evenings, that's given her a different night and a pathway in it. So I'm hoping that there's going to be another few, because there has been another couple of people that has messaged the page, but Thursday nights didn't suit them. So hopefully now when this is over, Monday night might suit them.
Yeah, no, totally. I think the other thing as well is it's probably two things. First of all, it was acting upon the feedback that Joe got at the start through a consultation with the guys. And Phil, you've passed on, you can't speak to me. Consultation with the guys, and that was one of the things that came out of it. So we've been silly to neglect that. I think the second thing as well is that we're kind of willing to look at it in 3 or 4 different ways. There isn't one set way to do sport. there's more than one way to do sport and different ways, and it's just something that we'd obviously batted around. It is a different take on it, and there are pros and cons to it, like anything, but we're really excited by it. And I think the number's 14 that first night, that wouldn't have been 14 if we'd gone about the other way. And that's the simple fact. So no, I think it's the right move. I think it's something we'll hopefully see grow, like you say, Sam. And so I hope it is beneficial and a nice way to integrate people into our sport, which is fundamentally what we want, whether that's within a female group, with a club, whatever it is, what people play.
Yeah, I think that profile of that wee group is going to be important in terms of like the development of more players coming from within into the sport, because it'll shine a bit of a light in terms of it is a mixed gender sport, because in the past it has been very much heavily dominated by male participation, obviously. So I suppose that female Northern Ireland development group will be massive in terms of the development of that kind of system, if you know what I mean, almost. So I think it's just, it's highly, highly exciting. And the only thing I would say is, if you are female and you are listening to the podcast, or you're interested, or you have a certain type of disability, then get in touch. Don't be shy. Get in touch and have a go. You know what I mean? Come along. As Danny said, there's loads of different pathways to get involved within the sport of wheelchair basketball. But I suppose I just wanted to talk about that NI development group. The important thing that I think, James, you mentioned the GB Women's League a second ago, and I suppose moving back or looking back and regressing, looking at the perennials impact upon the kind of NI club sporting scene has been massive. Adding that competitive kind of ness to the club scene has been huge in terms of how people train, as you mentioned, the competitive on and off the court. The development of referees and coaches and so on has been crazy. And I suppose that's kind of where I would like to see it going, is that we do have a women's group or a women's team that go away and, to start off with in Div 3 or something like that within the Women's League and the GB system, in order to give people that competitive base, so that the players within that system that want to go down that route have the opportunity to do so, and then it brings the levels up within the competitive environment. Is that something that you would be, an advocate of, Sam?
Yeah, oh, definitely, 100%.
Didn't even get the sentence finished. Yes.
Yes.
Quickest answer ever.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Nice.
I think that's what we're all here for. Like I've talked about, you want to be training for the sake of like the process and to try and get better, but that is training with process in mind is just the best way to figure out how to get better to play basketball games. Like this is a sport, if nothing else. Like this is about many things, and we've spoken about how much it can transform lives and whatever, but is at its core five people in two teams, ball and 2 10-foot basketball nets. Like that's what we want to be doing. Obviously, you want to get better so that you can win basketball games and you can play basketball games. And yeah, so I think that's the logical progression eventually. And obviously, just having that like central location with like women's teams against women's teams, and you've got female coaches, female referees, female table officials. Like it's just absolutely brilliant for the female side of the sport. Like I think that's where that has to be the end goal for anyone thinking about basketball. But like obviously there's different levels of games to play in, but like you're playing for fun or you're playing to win, but you want to be playing, don't you? Like
yeah, absolutely. It's a nice way to sum that up. Guys, it's been really, really good. We've covered a lot of interesting things from Sam's, story at the very, very beginning, coming through your club and how she felt there, up in the Northern Ireland systems and so on. Sam, I just had a quick question for you, just to kind of end this here, from this part of the podcast, and then on the Danny's thing. Do you have a message, or would you have a message for girls and females that may be interested in getting involved with wheelchair basketball, or even not interested at the moment, just thinking about sport in general?
The only message I can get across is just go and try it. If you have any interest in sport at all, or even if you don't have an interest in sport, if you just want an outlet, go and try it, because you won't regret it. And if it helps anybody the way this helped me, it's hugely beneficial, even if it's only for your mental health rather than your physical.
Yeah. Cheers, Sam. It's been brilliant to have you on. It's been a real pleasure. And thanks for sharing. There's a lot of personal stuff in there as well. So thank you very, very much. And I suppose I'm always told that this is the best part of the podcast and blah blah blah. I'm not with it. But Danny, it's on to you and the lightning round, big man.
Thank you very much. There's no supposedly about this. No. Oh, okay, Sam, listen, like I said, a bit like Neil, you're number one fan of this podcast, so you know what's coming. 10 questions as quick as you can. And like I said, we've got slower from week one, so let's pick it up. Right. Okay, number one, best moment in sport for yourself?
We came down at the UCD in Dublin, scoring a basket.
Okay. Funniest team member?
Me, obviously.
Nice, like that. Hardest trainer?
Jay, he has lost 7 stone since we started. Jay Campbell, all the way.
Quality.
Unbelievable.
And I've also seen Jay, as all of his posts on Instagram, he's been like a Chris Gale, cricket legend. Unbelievable. So, toughest opponent you've played against?
Matthew Hunter, the same as that. Come on, you look at him, and the next thing he just cuts you up.
Sporting hero?
Not really a sporting hero, but hero in general, just Alex, my Alex.
Oh, great answer. A fact about yourself?
I'm useless with directions. Absolutely. I'm going to Antrim for 2 years, and I still need 3 sentences and still get lost every week.
That's 100% true. I know that's and aim for the future within wheelchair basketball for yourself?
Get more people involved, and grow the club.
Brilliant. No, I like that. A quote you live by or you like, or?
Everything happens for a reason.
Nice. Love that. Yeah. A live sports event that you want to see, have seen?
UFC in Vegas. Unreal.
Oh, right. Okay. Interesting one. That's good. Last one. What excites you about wheelchair basketball in Northern Ireland?
Just the growth and the way that it's going, and how it's helping people physically and mentally. Love it.
Oh, brilliant. We do too, absolutely. And just to kind of echo what Phil said, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you and kind of have your insight. It's been really insightful. I found that hour and a bit just has flown by, but I've taken on so much, quality. Really good.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
No, not all.
Just been asking you.
Class. Listen, Danny, as always, thanks very much with the lightning round there, bringing the fire. But so, guys, at the end of every podcast, we usually do come out with, we need to look at what the DSNI members and staff are doing. Check out our social media platforms. Our staff are always working really hard to put out different types of workouts, different types of things that are going on, from Jared's autism post and blog, So yeah, check it out. We've got lots and lots of content on there, and obviously we've got all episodes of the podcast. So this is our 7th now, and we'll have our 8th very, very soon as well. So keep checking those out, keep liking and sharing. And I suppose the other important part of this whole sort of lockdown process that we're in is continue to follow the government processes and protocols and stuff in terms of health and safety. So make sure you're washing your hands. We're staying 2 meters apart, and we all know that social distancing saves lives. So keep doing that, guys. I suppose, Danny, James, from me, thanks very much for everything you do. Thanks for your time today as well. And folks at home, stay active, and stay safe. Peace. See you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
You guys.